Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining us here. This is a thrilling table, right? That's what we're calling this, Phil.
It is, and it's a way to make your table more thrilling. Our table is a thrilling table. That's what we aspire towards.
It's what we're aspiring for, absolutely. And
Yeah.
a very happy Independence Day to all of my American friends, and of course to you, Phil. Happy
Thank you.
Independence Day.
Being an American, I love Independence Day.
It's a big deal, isn't it?
Yeah, it's mostly
really
about
big.
hot dogs and fireworks right now.
Yes. Do everyone in your neighborhood have like their flags out, and like, is it a very patriotic
We got
thing?
a few patriots. We got a few patriots.
That's really
in the
cool.
neighborhood.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool. Well, we've got a topic for you, and this is coming. Phil, do you want to introduce this, and then we can go into it? We're trying to keep the stream relatively short. We're talking about half an hour.
Yeah.
So hopefully that won't waste anybody's time.
The idea I had was, well, first of all, it was more like, Crispy, I want to talk about a thing. Let's do tweakers. And then he's like, let's do it Thursday. Or I said, let's do it Thursday. We're figuring out the time. And then I was like, oh, that's 4th of July. And so we decided it should instead be about player independence. When I say player, as your little spoiler, it's not just the PCs.
Mm-hmm.
The GM needs his independence too.
Good point.
Talk about that soon.
Yeah, good point. So you selected a clip here. Do you want to start with that, Phil? And
I want to just preface the clip. I didn't realize until I got super jazzed about it that it was a point of no return situation. Mm-hmm. That Nick actually doesn't have this video posted. So this is Nicholas Camargo. Sorry, Nicholas. Mm-hmm. And he is probably I would call him one of the first of the second gen of the 4D groups. Yeah. And I just want to say the game was really awesome. And,
yeah, it was cool.
All those guys. It's a guy named Al. I don't think anyone's seen him yet. I don't know.
He has played in a few public games, not with us, but yeah.
And Zonalar and then Nicholas, and the game was really good. Mm-hmm. But there was one thing I decided to nitpick about.
Mm-hmm. That sounds
of course that's the only thing.
That's the only thing that we're going to talk about. But, and since this isn't really our game, we're going to limit it just to this one thing. So hopefully that's okay, Nick, Z, and Al. We're just going to take that 1 minute, and then we're gonna talk about it. But I also have watched this game, and I haven't gotten all the way through this one yet. But very interesting setting. Very interesting.
So the setting is not to totally tweaker the heck out of someone else's game. But, the setting is like this prime. How would you describe it? Like Stone Age.
Yeah. It's like what is that called?
What's the name of that movie that Mel Gibson did?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not that, because that was like Conquistador time. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They're all basically like one step above cavemen.
Essentially, yes.
It's pretty awesome.
So it's a cool setting. Early civilization to maybe pre-civilization, if we can go that far.
They're farming. I know they're farming. Sort
of. And hunter-gatherer. Before any kind of written language.
Yeah. Anyways.
Stone Age for sure.
Just to kind of set up the clip, because we're trying to keep it short.
Yes, let's do that.
Basically what's happening is Zonalar's character, whose name is Boy, Boy who stares at the wall, or Boy who stares at wall.
Yeah.
He ends up getting a new name, and it's I love the character arc of this game. This game is awesome. And you guys, all three of you guys are totally, please come to my table and please let me into yours. But he is like trying to climb a tree and beefs it because he's like kind of weak. And his brother, it might be his cousin actually.
I think it was his brother.
It was brothers, yeah. Sap is played by Al, is like this Stone Age alchemist, and he like tosses a potion up at him.
Right.
And let's play the clip, and then
let's play this clip. Okay, so here we are. Whenever you're ready, I think you can start it on your end.
Maximize. What if I maximized it?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Here we go. Oops. Didn't have the time queued up. Look at me.
There we go.
This drink, brother. This will make your muscles big and strong. Climbing will be very easy for you, I'm sure. Just hold your nose when you drink.
Okay. So far, what's happened is he threw a potion up. He says it's going to make you big and strong, and it's going to stink. Like it stinks. It's going to be tough to drink. Zonalar says, ugh. And he actually does it beforehand, and then he like plays off of what else is. So great job. Great job.
Really good.
Say that early.
Yeah, why didn't you say that earlier?
Oh, well. I chuckled to myself.
I feel weird.
Yeah.
So this is, I think Crispy was saying this is a bit of a misstep here from Zonalar.
I just think there
kind of leaves the gap.
There's a bit of a gap there. And the gap that I would identify is Al has given the cue. This was my feedback on this. Al gave the cue. This is going to make you stronger.
Yeah.
And Z, to your credit, you did pick up on the other cue. Like, it's going to smell bad, and don't worry about that. Just
now, before we talk about the details, the point I want to make with this video is Al made a potion that has an effect. Zonalar is drinking the potion that has some effect on his own body.
Yep.
And the GM exists. So who is going to describe what happens to Zonalar?
I see where you're going. Yes.
Well, Al should know because he made the potion.
He made the potion.
So he should be feeding maybe Zonalar some information he has. Zonalar is in charge of his body. He's a player agency. So he should be describing what happens to his body. But he kind of takes a break, kind of gives a beat. And so the GM's kind of like, this is what happens.
Right.
So that's kind of what's going to happen here.
Okay.
Sort of.
Let's watch that.
All right. Keep clicking the stream.
What is it for, brother?
Your throat warms up a bit, as does the inside of your stomach.
The drink's supposed to make you stronger, make your muscles big and strong for a little bit.
Okay.
Good job.
I look at.
So he's waiting for the input. I can see Zonalar waiting for the input.
Yeah.
I was actually kind of putting this on Nick at first, but I think it is kind of Zonalar needs to get the input. Sorry, Z. Once again, fucking incredible game.
It was really good. I would give Nick a pass on this.
I think Nick is trying, I think Nick's trying to push. He's pushing.
He's pushing a little bit. He's pushing
like,
a little
it's
bit.
Dry,
which is totally
like
fine.
Your throat's dry. Something with dry throat, and you're going to get strong.
That's right. He's going to come in here with like, it burns in your stomach and your mouth, and then
say something about getting stronger. Yeah, and then you're good.
Because Al said that to feed it up. Yeah.
Say again.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
The green stuff
goes away.
No, let me rewind it 5 seconds.
I look at the branch.
The numbness
with the green stuff
goes away.
That's what he said. The numbness goes away.
Yeah, from his tired muscles. I think.
And Z's already moving on to the next thing.
Yeah.
The
tiredness of your muscles soon.
Yeah.
Well, he said something about muscles there, but there was a bit of crosstalk.
So that's the end of it. That's the end of the clip. So what happened? So Nick is just like, you're getting stronger. Like that's what's happening to you. And because because Zonalar doesn't push it, like there's that they're going to talk over each other 2 times, and then it's kind of like this weird moment. It stuck out to me so much because it's like the only weird time in the game.
Yeah, because the game goes incredibly smoothly. Really, like they all of them do an excellent job. They really do.
So I just wanted to point out that, and it kind of spawned this idea of like player independence a little bit, because Zonalar should feel like he can state what the potion does to his body. He's got some feedback from Al, and Al should be able to say a little bit what happens because it's his potion. So
and he does.
And he does. He's like, it kind of stinks, like it sucks to drink it, and you're gonna get stronger. And then Zonalar drinks it. It's like, ugh. So he does the good reaction.
Yeah, it was almost there. I agree with you. I think they started really strong. Like Z does the thing with the, it tastes awful. He even does this thing in his mouth that he uncorks it and makes a sound.
Yeah, it makes a really good uncork sound.
Yeah,
he's really. I was doing audio because I was mowing the yard, but Zonalar's really emotive. He's really
he is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that Nick was kind of right, and the other reason they're talking over each other, they literally live on opposite sides of the world.
They do.
There's a lag there that they're dealing with.
Yeah, like one's in Brazil, another's in Europe somewhere. Someone's in the US somewhere. Yeah, it's actually quite inspiring that they could pull it off with so many different time zones.
One of them is up at a stupid hour, that's for sure. And it's probably so long. So just to be fair in all respects. Anyways, so what I wanted to talk about was player independence and GM independence is that something I've noticed that happens a lot, and I saw it you see it in games all the time, especially when people are trying to do good, be a good player, like be a player that helps the GM. That's a real big thing, right? Is that the player will listen to the cues from the GM,
yes,
and listen to the hooks and be like, okay, he's giving me a hook now. Well, I want to respond to that so that the GM gets to do what they want to do,
right,
and all that stuff. And so I think do you think it's better for a player to be totally devoid of this kind of meta conversation that's happening between the players? Or do you think that the meta conversation is useful for generating a good cohesive story and stuff like that?
Can you give another example? Like,
okay.
Just for those that are listening to or watching this on the replay, when you say the meta conversation, let's start with an example of that.
Okay. Someone is robbing a bank that you're in, and you're a real estate agent.
Okay.
This is the game. Now, as a player, you might feel like it's necessary for you to engage with the bank robbery. But a real estate agent might be like, I'm just going to fucking keep my head down.
Yeah, I just wait.
Get out of here when they're gone.
Yeah. I'm changing banks. I should have gone to the credit union. Yeah.
Or, so like, is the move for you as the player to get involved somehow in this bank robbery, try to keep that hostage from being saved?
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay.
Should you be focused on your short-term, long-term goals as a character to get that house sold today?
Yeah, and not get shot by some guy that's
not get involved in
the bank,
someone else's business.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. In my view on that, Phil, quite clearly, I think that the best thing to do is to interact with the scene, but only as the character would according to their motivations, not just simply to be, hey, I can see that there's a battle map that's been prepared here. So
wow, you painted 7 minis.
Yeah, so
that's very interesting.
You went out and bought that one? Okay, I guess we're fighting now. Me in my Remax cheap suit and my leased Cadillac out back. I'm gonna be the real estate agent the little real estate agent that could. I'm gonna step up.
roll initiative, and you're like,
roll
okay,
initiative, and I'm like, I have my
what are you
head
doing
down.
on your turn? I'm nothing.
I'm
Still as possible.
Just trying not to draw any attention to myself.
Yeah. Hey, you give me your wallet. And you're like, I give him my wallet.
I give him the wallet.
You say, sorry, I'm not looking him in the eye at all.
Yeah. It's exactly right. And Max, I'm going to put your comment up. It's just, it's absolutely true. Some things will happen in the world around you that your character, as you understand him, would not choose to engage with and should not engage with. So like that sounds like a job for the authorities, or where's the bat signal? Just turn that on. I'm not getting involved in this. Yeah.
You give him your business card. You're like, if you're ever looking for a home,
you know what? I specialize in condos. You guys want? I've got an office in the Caymans if you need to launder this. But you know it's I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You shouldn't feel obligated with the scene as described. You should interact with the scene, but you interact with the scene not because the scene is there. For example, the bank robbers are there. That means I have to interact with the bank robbers. No, your interaction with the bank robbers can be, well, I'm just not going to draw any attention to myself. I really just have this showing that I'm going to show later on today, and it's for this lady that I think I can get her to close. And
I think that the example has some flaws. Because you're involved with the bank robbery.
You're still involved. It's just that you being involved in the scene does not. You still have your independence, and you know what? Like you had said earlier when we were having a brief conversation about this, the game master has his independence too. Those bank robbers, they don't have to interact with you.
That's right. So
they're
the
going
game
to
master
do their
then
thing.
Does the game master make a mistake because he feels like whatever's happening has to impact the player? Is that right?
No.
Okay. Are we even playing a game now though? You know what I mean?
Well, sure. And there will be intersections. Like there will be moments in time where motivations clash, and good obstacles will present that clash or opportunities for it to happen. But I don't think it's right to force it in. Like we're going to force that. Like you have to, unless the motivation of the bank robber is I need a hostage. And I look over and I see a guy wearing a linen suit. Yeah, he's going to be my hostage for sure. He's got a flashy gold watch because he's trying to show that he's a successful realtor. Well, there's an intersection now. Like you chose, the realtor just doesn't want to be involved. That's my character. But your character, the bank robber,
tucking my chain in.
Yeah, he's like, I'm trying to. I shouldn't have wore so much cologne today, and it's good. Something draws the bank robber's attention because of his motivations to my character. Well, there we've arrived at an interesting intersection, and things can happen there that I didn't want to happen, but now I'm forced to because of what's going on. It's still better to have that happen. I don't know. I guess you could argue, well, you could still just roll initiative and then just go through the initiative thing. But I'm like,
I'd really rather not. Something like this actually does happen in one of our games. In the Wild Hell game, Max literally just sits under a tree.
He does,
and I'm like bringing dragons
to try to move him around.
And he's like, that's interesting. I'm going to sit here. And he kind of complained about it a little bit. He's like,
why are you moving me around? Yeah.
Why are you even over here? What am I supposed to do? Like, I don't know. I just wanted to put a show on.
It's a good point. There are times where
we just move on.
You just
There's
move
a bank
on.
robbery. Okay, well, yada yada, the bank robbery.
Maybe that's not what the interesting thing is. Maybe there's something that happens after that's more interesting. There's maybe one of the bank robbers recognizes, say, hey, you sold me that trailer over in the trailer park, and I'm really mad. Like I know that guy.
Yeah. So then the move is at the end. There has to be a link to it.
Yes.
Later. Like maybe you are showing a house, and guess who shows up to buy a house?
Yes,
it's the fucking bank robber.
Well, you recognize his.
Maybe he doesn't recognize you at all. Maybe
no, but you recognize him as wearing that.
Of course, life was flashing before your eyes.
Exactly.
What do we got here? So
we got some good comments here. Just put out the last one. Thanks. This is Matt. So Matt, thanks for dropping in. Most players and or characters will probably want to avoid combat either because it's dangerous, or in the case of D&D, because nothing of note will happen for 2 hours. I like the idea that combat should be avoided unless it can't be avoided. Like it seems to me that in many games that even in our games we play, it's throwing down is the very first option.
I love it. I don't know why.
And there's sometimes where, throwing down makes sense. Combat should be lethal. Thank you very much. Great comment. It's a good comment. It should be lethal. And because of that, I think that dovetails in really actually with what I understand Matt's saying here is that we should be looking for other options, not just because it's more believable to me, unless you're in that kind of setting where it's going to be violence right away. It's that kind of pulpy thing. Short and lethal.
I hear you guys. I don't want the conversation to devolve into what do most people do. Sorry. I want it to be what should we do?
What should we do? That's right.
Yeah. Is the meta conversation that's taking place between a GM and between players as far as like, hey, there's some cool story here. Hey, we're actually cooperatively making a story. Is that a goal, or should you be more and I know that these terms have like roots in role-playing game history, but I don't know what they are, so I'm not trying to say it in those contexts. But should it be more simulation? Like I am a character, I'm a person in the world, and I'm not. I'm totally devoid of whatever the players are doing. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I think so. My take on that is that that I'm not. My character isn't trying to create a story beyond satisfying his immediate needs and long-term goals. It's not your goal is not that. Yes.
Okay.
So that's like, so in other words, I'm not trying to create the story. I'm just trying to inhabit the character in a believable way in that scene. So if I understand my real estate agent character well, then I will respond to an ultra violent bank robbery according to what that character would do, not according to this would make for a better story arc. Yeah. The story arc is a byproduct. It's not the it's not the goal.
I agree.
So and I do think that putting in obstacles where violence is there is dramatic. So I agree with Sean here that violence can drive drama, and it's appropriate to have those kind of obstacles because that's inviting more of these intersections where motivations will clash, where goals will clash. But it's important to have the independence to decide whether or not to engage. If you don't have the independence as a player to decide if your character engages in that obstacle in the way that you think the game master is intending, if you can't decide that no, my character is really not going to do that, then I don't think those characters have the agency that's so talked about, right? It's yes.
But you have to use the agency if you want it. You know what I mean?
You have to use it.
If it's just sitting there and you're not using it,
you're not using it. Then you're
picking up the breadcrumbs.
Yeah, which I think
finding it is yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to bring it back to the clip that you chose because I think this clip it's really good. It's a good clip. It's a short clip, but it shows the independence of two players and their characters interacting with one another. And the game master, for the most part, at the end, there was a little bit of crosstalk that happens. It happens to us too. But the independence is that the players are listening to the cues of each other and then playing off of it, and deciding whether or not they're going to do it without any other outside, influence, saying, like a game master coming in and saying, all right, you drink the potion and do the and then like, wait.
Yeah.
Who said I could do that?
Yeah. And the only reason I wanted to point out the crosstalk is because it was the consequence. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Of the actual issue.
Good comment here, and I would like to hear, Phil, what you think of this.
Okay,
Max
so this is
asking,
the core question that I'm asking.
Yeah.
Does the player have any independence, or should he be a slave to the character?
So, in other words, do we put the independence at the player level, which then invites this meta thing, or do we put the independence strictly at the character level?
I think that to quote the wise Bear, the Gen X GM, I think the solution lies somewhere in the middle.
Probably.
Because if you want to be interested, then you might choose something interesting, like the bank robber is now roughing up someone, and you might say, as a player, oh, she looks just like my mom.
Right.
Now I care.
I would say,
and so I'm inventing a part of my backstory,
so that you care about
because it's more interesting for me to be
engaged in that
white collar guy who's decided to have a code all of a sudden. Like, that sounds kind of awesome.
It does.
I'm playing Falling Down.
Yeah. Or not even Falling Down. What's the other one that was great? Mr. Nobody, that kind of thing. Yeah. Like what? Or like,
it wasn't that great?
Or the accountant, the accountant, that one where like, why do you have to? You just liquidate the accountant. Why are you having so much trouble with the accountant? Yeah. But what I was going to say to this, Max, is that this is your question is a good question, because it illustrates in my mind how important it is that we try to have those two be one and the same while we're staying in character. This illustrates for me why it's so important for us to try as much as we can to be in character the whole time.
Yeah.
So that there isn't this dichotomy between, well, what's the player want to have happen versus what the character has to happen. I'm trying to be so into the headspace of that character, experiencing this fictional world through the character, that it's not really about me anymore. It's the character. It becomes, I am that character, in the sense that the character's motivations become my own as I get into that character and stay there.
I think that in the example I gave just now, with because you don't have a personality for your character a lot of the time. Like, you're going in and you're like, this is what my personality is going to be. And if you decide this person looks like my mom, I think that is an independent decision. But it is dependent on the GM introducing a push at the same time. So I don't know. It's kind of tricky. It's a group. I don't know. Storytelling.
It's a group effort for sure. You have to have conflict. I mean, the conflict has to be there. Because otherwise it's just not, it's not going to be engaging.
I think we can make it compelling either way. But so don't feel like, because the example that you gave, where you're like, I'm just keeping my head down. I'm terrified. I'm crap my pants. I'm so scared. And then like the idea of like, you have to sell a house to a bank robber. I think that's a cool story too.
Yes,
that would be awesome.
If that's what happens, that happens, right? That's
absolutely. So I think that the answer is, don't feel obligated that you have to change your character's personality just to fit this moment.
Yes.
But you can, if you want.
If
that's the game you want to play.
And I would say, Phil, that it's not unreasonable in if it's a good conflict, if it's a good obstacle, it will be a stressful thing for all characters involved. And we're out of time now, but with all characters involved being so stressed, in those moments, there can be adjustments because that's where you're really tested.
Yeah.
The realtor may not know that he's heroic until the bank robbery is happening.
That's right.
Then he becomes heroic or cowardly.
Yeah. Give it a couple spots where
give it a couple spots. Yeah.
Crapping his pants.
So we are up on our 30 minutes, and we're trying to keep these conversations short, on the shorter side, so they're a little more digestible. We've got some great comments here. We'll just quickly go through those, catch up, and then we'll call it, I think. So a character story is a bias, not a contract. Interesting
Character story is a bias.
It's a bias, not a contract. The creative aspect is about crafting reactions consistent with the role, yet moves the story forward. And the only thing I would change on that is that the reactions are where I'm just worried about that. I'm not the story in the sense of the events transpire as they transpire, but without the idea of we're actively engaged in a storytelling endeavor. We're just engaged in the reaction, action reaction. But I like this idea of it, that the characters' motivations, what happens to them is according to their biases, and it's not.
And I find that that approach, the independent approach, it makes for much more honest storytelling and much better stories. At the end,
afterwards, when we look back,
otherwise it feels contrived.
Yeah, that's right. Oh well, you just had it happen this way because you wanted the story to be like this.
It feels like
whereas
a
in our
cheap
games,
movie versus a good movie.
When we look back at our games, and I've been rewatching some of our game sessions because I find them so valuable to go back as just a tool to hone the craft. The stories that have emerged from those have been very interesting, and I want to go back to them after watching it. I'm like, oh, I kind of want to go back to that. But it wasn't something where we started off, this is how the story is going to go. Okay, here, Max, it's probably a self-feeding loop. The player has freedom to define the character, but once the character is defined, the player has to serve him. The higher the resolution, the less freedom for the player. Or if you think of it this way, the less distance between the player and the character. They're approaching that level where they're about the same. Thanks for dropping in, RPG Grandma. Thanks. Nice to have you here. And Max, we'll give you the final word, of course. The bank robber wants to buy a house, but you know where the money comes from?
That's right.
What to do. Excellent. That's great. Independence. Look for more independence is your message to us, Phil, is that you should be
I agree.
Focusing more on independence.
Stop trying to have over the table conversation with the other players and get more involved, more immersed in your character, and more interested in what you yourself want as a player. Yeah, exactly. And then listen to those cues, like we saw with Z and Al and Nick in a great game session. Listening to one another and then making those decisions based on those cues that you're listening to. Playing off those, I think that's really good. Thank you, everyone, for dropping in. Thanks for joining us. We're gonna hopefully get more of these in the future. I would say, right, Phil? We'll. That's the goal. That's the goal. We'll see how it goes, and we'll see. Hopefully, more games from us in the near future as well. We're working on that. Happy Independence Day, and God bless y'all. God bless. Exactly. Happy Independence Day. See you, everybody.